Welcome to the Real Estate and Small Business for Management Consultant Show. Whether you hold a corporate 9 to 5 or have determined that you want to explore the small business realm, this show is for you. Christian Carrillo talks to entrepreneurs and experts in the real estate and small business realms to discover what they do, why they do it, and how they do it to help show you the art of the possible. And now your host, Christian Carrillo.
Welcome back to the Real Estate and Small Business Show. I'm your host, Christian Carrillo. Today, we've got a special interview for you folks. Our guest is Branko Picavia. Thanks for hopping on the show, Branko. We're super excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Branko is a mortgage loan officer at Draper and Kramer in Reston, Virginia. He has been in the business for several years and closed over $100 million in refinance loans in 2021 alone. Branko came to the U.S. from Argentina at the age of 7 and grew up in Arlington, Virginia. When you need expert mortgage solutions and service from a trusted professional, Branko is your go-to resource. With extensive lending knowledge and access to a wide variety of loan products and programs, Branko can help you achieve your home buying and refinancing goals while saving you time, money, and stress. Again, Branko, we're super excited to have you on. Why don't you get us started with a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Thank you so much, Christian. I'm happy to be here. So I am a mortgage loan officer based out of Reston, Virginia. Mostly work in purchase and refinance, but also do a little bit of construction and commercial loans as well. We have a large, good amount of products available to match, pretty much any borrower out there.
Awesome, Branko. No, I love that. And so as I think about your overall story from having known you for quite some time, how exactly is it that you landed doing what you're doing now?
So it's quite the story, actually. Originally I started with a different background. I was just running a small business, doing, computer, laptop repairs, cell phones, all that. And it was going well, just wasn't going as planned. And a friend of mine, he was working as a loan officer, and he was telling me, the commission checks that he was getting and, how well things were going. So it definitely was interesting to me. And, I saw the work-life balance that he had. So I thought if I, put all my work and efforts into that, hopefully I'd have the same success.
I love that. I love that. And so you mentioned just now that prior to sort of pursuing your current career, you sort of dabbled around in different sort of industries, different sectors, maybe a small business here or there. What was that overall process like for you, right? Because I think when I think about our overall show, a lot of times our listeners are folks that, growing up are told, get good grades, go to school, get a good job with great benefits. And we kind of get stuck in that cycle, right? And part of the reason we bring on folks such as yourself is because we want to show them, quote unquote, the art of the possible, right? That there's more to life. Even if you have a 9 to 5, right? I invest in commercial real estate now, mobile home parks, yet I still have my corporate 9 to 5, right? So it's not one or the other, it can be both. So right. Talk to us a little bit more about what you did on the small business side and sort of how you got involved in that.
Growing up, I just always wanted to, kind of be my own boss, so I dabbled, with different businesses, definitely had an entrepreneurial spirit. It's definitely hard work. It's not easy. And it's very time consuming. The check, the money that I was bringing in was good, but it wasn't great. And then seeing how, my friend was doing so well, had a good work-life balance and was putting all his time and effort into something that, was actually fruitful. That was something that definitely attracted me, to the business. I've always been, very, I guess, inspired and wanting to get into real estate. I just didn't know how. And then, that was pretty much like a way for me to get in the door, to get into the real estate space.
I love that. I love that. And it kind of shows that there's a process to the madness, right? To any goal, any desire that you may have, there are different steps that you're going to have to take to get there. But
Right.
Branko, your specific line of work is very interesting to me, right? Especially when I think about debt and how it applies to real estate. For me, real estate is one of those asset classes where I can put 20% down, right? If I'm thinking about loan to cost, loan to value, I can put 20% down on a $10 million asset. So in this case, I'd put, a couple million down, yet I control the entire amount of the asset, right? 10 million worth of cash flow, tax benefits, right? And I think people sometimes don't really necessarily understand the power of debt and leverage, right? Growing up, my mother always told me, make sure you don't get into debt, pay all of your debt off, right? But debt is, in my eyes, more of a tool, right? It can be either good or bad. It just depends on how you're using it. So I definitely want you to walk us through a little bit more about what you do, like your services. Could you tell our listeners what exactly you provide? Like if I were to come to you, how can you help me?
So pretty much I work with, with the help of realtors or, leads that I'm referred to. I can, help with the whole purchasing, it's the American dream, purchasing a house. So being a part of that is, definitely something that excites me, and, being able to help others, create wealth, because that's pretty much what you're doing, when you're buying a tangible asset, because, over time that asset increases in value, that builds equity that you can eventually tap into. And then the more you do that, the more wealth that you create.
I love that. And so you talked a little bit about you're sort of throwing in these phrases and these words, right? You talked a little bit about building equity in a home.
Yeah.
Why is that beneficial for folks, right? Like why should somebody care about building equity?
So over time, your home is aging. So, let's say you want to make some improvements to your house. Some people, you buy a house, and then over time, equity builds up. It's appreciating over time. You can tap into that, and get some cash out, and do any upgrades that you want to the home. And then, at the end of the day, you're also, it's going to come back appraised higher. You're building, you're essentially building more equity on your home. But yeah, that's.
I love that, right? So you're getting some natural appreciation from the market, yet at the same time, you have principal pay down because you're making payments towards it. So you could maybe pull a HELOC on it, home equity line of credit, grab that capital, go deploy it elsewhere, maybe some commercial real estate, or to your point, maybe refi, pull out cash, right? And I think this brings me to my next point. You did 100 million
Right.
2021.
Yeah.
And I think you're very humble about it.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, everything, like I'm a firm believer, everything happens for a reason, and if you put yourself in certain situations, you're, as long as you make the most out of it, then, it should be fruitful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was, it's funny because before, working from home was like, kind of like a privilege. In this industry, if you want to work from home, you'd have to be producing, being one of the top producers. Going into, I initially started in a call center. For that, you do have to go into an office. But yeah, it was good, because I got in right during COVID, and pretty much, I had passed my exam to get into lending. And then COVID hit and they sent everyone home, and I was able to, some people got comfortable, but some didn't. Some made the best out of it. And it was definitely a good time to be a loan officer then, because COVID only dropped the 10-year treasury. So it was at historically low rates that were available.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, something I wanted to talk to you about was how the pandemic has impacted your overall business model, right? But it sounds like from what we've seen, especially, right, the appreciation in home over the last couple of years, the buying frenzy out there, right? Even if demand goes down, we're still hitting record high prices on homes. So
Right.
overall, it seems like it's been a pretty good couple of years for you. Would you say that's
Yeah,
correct?
definitely. I feel like I got to experience, the very best of the business. And, right now we're not going, interest rates are going up. They nearly doubled in the last 3-4 months. And it's only expected to keep rising. So, I saw the very best, and now it's going into, the not so good, but I'm still just, pivoting to, my tactics, going for more refinance, which was what I did mostly, to now focusing more on purchase loans.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a great point. I traveled to Charlotte this past week for a multifamily conference, and we had a couple of different leaders there. And a
Mhm.
big topic of discussion was the current economic climate, right? Thinking about macroeconomics, microeconomics, and where we stand in the economy. And this idea of a recession was a big topic, right? Everybody kept talking about it. And you talked a little bit about the 10-year treasury, right? And we had an inversion happen relatively frequently when we look at the 3-year versus 10-year yield. And there are some folks that continue to be optimistic on one hand, and then there are folks on the other side that think, it's the end of the world is coming, right?
Yeah.
So as you think about the current environment that we're in, Branko, right? We just had a 75 basis point hike, right? For July, we were expecting a 50% basis hike. Yet we now know that it's probably going to be another 75 basis points, right? And for our listeners, a basis point is 1/100th of a percent. What can we expect, Branko, from what you're seeing in the market? Like where in the world are we headed?
Well, yeah, like I said, over the last couple months, interest rates have only been increasing, and it's expected to, keep doing that. You know, for the next 2 years. So things are only gonna get worse, I would say, but it's never a bad time to, to purchase, because down the line when things do get better, you can always, refinance and, lower your rate. And at the same time, before there was a bidding war, when interest rates were low, it was harder to get into a house, simply because there was a lot of offers out there. A lot of people trying to get into the houses while the rates were low. So now there's not going to be so much of a bidding war. I think, you could definitely maybe go a little bit under asking price, because, interest rates going up, it's only going to make less people be qualified for these loans. But, it's never a bad time to purchase. And there's definitely a lot of programs out there available that, definitely help out every situation, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I like how you sort of led from, yeah, things are, they could be bad, right? But there are different programs where you can leverage those to get into potentially your first home, right? And, while we may be limited on time here, I definitely want to touch on that for our listeners, right? A lot of folks out there, they may not be currently investing in let's say a small business, or they may not be invested in commercial real estate. Maybe they're following the more traditional path for now, right? Where we know that the average American builds their wealth through equity in home ownership, right?
Right.
So for folks that, may be worried about the interest rate now, what kind of other programs are there out there that they could leverage? Maybe FHA, if you could talk about a couple of them.
Yeah, so with FHA, there's definitely a bunch of first-time home buyers programs out there to help, with down payment assistance if it's needed. Also, you don't have to have the best credit score for that. So if are under 620 credit score, then FHA is definitely an option. If you have above a 620 credit score, I highly recommend going conventional. There's a difference between both programs, and we can definitely get into that, but yeah, there's just even for people that don't have social security, there's something out there. There's I-10 loans, people that are self-employed. There's so many ways to get people to their goals, to be a homeowner and create wealth.
Yeah, I love that, Branko, and I'm so happy you brought that up, right? Because a lot of times we don't know what's out there, right? And I think you're
Right.
showing to the folks that there is something out there that can work for you. It's simply about going to the right person and having them provide the information to you, right? Which is why, as an officer, I trust you highly, and I highly encourage folks to reach out to you. So that's amazing. One other thing, Branko, that I was reading about recently, and this is from a report that Marcus and Millichap put out. So a lot of times I'm doing analyses on the demand for multifamily real estate, so for apartment complexes. And I was reading the report that sort of mentioned that a couple of years ago, for a medium price home, you only had to make about 75K to qualify. And because of these rate hikes, people are being priced out, right? Whereby, a couple of years ago, you could make 75K and qualify. Now people have to make 110K plus to qualify,
Yeah.
right? So from what you're seeing in the market, the increase in rates, are you seeing a lot of people maybe being priced out of the market?
Yeah, definitely. There's less people being able to be qualified to take on a loan, because the interest rates keep going up. But I mean, at the same time, if it's a give or take, because interest rates are going up, but then at the same time there has to be some sort of correction in the housing market. So it's not going to be anything like 2008. I think it should be a small correction, maybe at most 20-25%, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
And to those that do have cash on hand, it's obviously a great opportunity to start building wealth, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's interesting that you bring that up. I before hopping on here, I was actually on a meetup with some investors based out of the Texas markets, and we were talking a little bit about what we're projecting over the next 6 to 12 months. And the unfortunate part is I think a lot of folks are going to be hurt from what's going to happen over the next couple of months. But on the flip side, right, they're also thinking about, hey, how can I position myself to make sure that I use this as an opportunity, right? So, a lot of folks, they may be underwater and they may need other individuals to help get them above water, right? And I think that that's where real estate investors can really come in, right? If somebody's feeling the pain, if they're feeling the burn, you can go in and help structure a deal in a certain way to help somebody get out of trouble, right? So
For sure.
I definitely agree. And, one of the individuals that I really look up to in the real estate space, his name is Rod Clafe. He, in 2008, he lost just north of $50 million investing in real estate. And he was talking about his overall sentiment of where we're at. And he's a little concerned about it, right? But he mentioned that with any problem comes opportunity, right? So over the next 6 to 12 months, I imagine for individuals looking to get involved in real estate, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, right? So I'm super happy you brought that up. And it's always about preparing yourselves, right? Having cash on hand, right? Establishing operating reserves, getting fixed rate long-term debt. These are the kind of things we want to be thinking about, especially for folks that want to maybe get involved in small business or in real estate. But Branko, with that, it has been a pleasure getting to know more about you, and I'm sure that our listeners will get a lot out of this interview. It always fascinates me to hear how folks are tracking the market, right? What they're seeing. And I think what you've mentioned today is sort of in line with what I've heard from a lot of folks that are professionals in the real estate industry. And I think we're definitely headed for a correction. I'd say next 6 to 12 months, probably closer to 6 months and 12 months.
Right.
And it's going to present a lot of opportunity for folks, right?
For sure.
Are you ready for a quick response round?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So first question here for you. If you lost it all today, talking about everything, what would you do?
I would have maybe tried to get into the space a lot sooner. Definitely position myself with, like-minded individuals. And yeah, just, go from there.
Yeah, I love that, right? There's a lot of truth to the saying that proximity is power, right? So highly encourage folks, if you're ever looking to get involved in some type of industry, seek out individuals that are already there, right? Pablo Picasso says, good artists copy, great artists steal, right? To go out there and do it.
Right.
Branko, second one for you. Going forward, what do you have planned in, let's say, life, and why?
Well, being in a residential lending, I'd like to start maybe going into commercial lending. It's a little different, when it comes to the finance there, but it's a little more recession proof, I would say, than your average residential lending.
Yeah, absolutely right. And like the commercial space, bridge loans are basically the way to buy commercial real estate now. And even with high rates, we're going out and we're getting rate caps, right? Because we still want to keep buying, right? Again, there's a half that's sitting on the sidelines, and there's the other half that's saying, holy smokes, half of us are on the sidelines. It's just such a great opportunity to keep buying, right? So completely agree with you. There's always opportunity on the commercial side.
Yeah, definitely.
If you could give our listeners one piece of advice today, what would it be?
It would be to obviously, surround yourself with like-minded individuals that, that motivate you. And, that's definitely try to, get some of that same, success, they motivate you, it's for a reason. So yeah, that's my biggest advice. For sure.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Last one here for you, Branko. How can our listeners get to know more about you and connect with you?
I guess one way would be I'm on LinkedIn. Also have a company website. You can go to DK Mortgage /Picavia, my last name, or reach out to me via email, branko.picavia@gmail.com. So yeah, I'm always available, and love talking with like-minded individuals.
Awesome. Again, Branko, thank you so much for hopping on the show. I'm sure that our listeners will get a lot of golden nuggets out of this. And again, we can't thank you enough. Thanks so much, my friend.
Yeah, man, anytime. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We'll chat soon. Take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate and Small Business for Management Consultants Show, brought to you by Pexels Capital Group. Pexels Capital Group works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate while also looking to add value in the communities where they operate. Pexels Capital Group, client-centered, data-driven, result-oriented. Connect with us online at quetzalcapitalgroup.com to learn more.